Hello guys, welcome back to class. So this module, we're going to cover functions. We're going to discuss and have a look at examples of what you refer to as Boolean functions, Boolean, true or false. When the data is true or false, what do you do? How do you deal with that? Conditional functions, right? Sometimes you want to solve for a certain condition, right? If a number is greater than this other number, what you do, right? Things like that. Conditional functions based on certain conditions. We're going to look at some conditions, if functions, and some reference functions, right? And as always, with a lot of Excel, it's always easier, right? More clear when you see actual demonstrations. So I'm going to share my screen now, and we can look at some of these functions for Module 3 Excel. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen right now. As always, you want to pull up your Excel and you want to follow along, type along. It's the easiest way for you to, should I say, get something, right? For the concepts of Excel in this class or whatever class, you want to be sure you're taking notes. Now, the notes might be in a way that you understand, but you want to be sure to take notes, right? You can refer to these notes when you have a quiz, right? When you have, some other challenge to deal with. Have students who use their notes way after school, try to recollect a concept that is tough, but if you can only see it on your notes, then it becomes, becomes clearer, all right? All right, so the first thing we're going to look at here is Boolean functions. So let me just go ahead and type that out, Boolean functions. I'm just going to center, let me just scroll down this way. Basically, I need, let's center this text A to D. I'm not sure we've covered that, but if we haven't covered that, then what you want to do is you want to go to, let me expand this a little bit here. You want to go to the section of your Excel. So you say you want to center Boolean functions, right? Right now it's in just the cell A or A1. So you select A to D, say you want to center it A to D. You go to merge and center and just click merge and center. And now you can see that it's nicely centered, right there, as opposed to how it was before. Let me undo that. This is how it was before in just a cell. So if I expand that cell, A1, then you have your Boolean functions, but we want it to spread out. All right, we want it to spread out. So I'm going to select A to D, and then go to the alignment center section here and go to merge and center, and now you get to center. So let's put a background color. Just any simple background color is fine. All right. And then we can move on. So Boolean functions are basically true or false situations. And if it is true, you do something. If it is false, then you do the other thing. All right. So let's get an example. I'm just going to put some random numbers here. I'm going to put the number 5. I'm going to put the number 10. And I'm going to put 20 here, all right? So just some random numbers. So let's get an example of what Boolean functions, the situation might be here. So let's say that now the first Boolean function we're going to look at is AND, all right? We're going to look at the AND. Boolean function. All right. So here's an example of AND. So if you type in you go here and you type in your equal sign, and you go AND. Now, when you type it, of course, every function in Excel, once you place your equal sign and you type the function name, it's going to pop up, right? And you can see a kind of description here. The AND function checks whether all arguments are true and returns true if all arguments are true. All right, so let's see what happens here. So again, type that and just double click to select. So it's asking you for some arguments here, right, or options. So let's say we want to compare all these numbers. We have the number 5 in A2, number 10 in B2, and 20 in C2. So we're going to say, well, sometimes you're more accurate when you just select. So we're going to select A2 right here. And we're going to say plus B2. All right. And we say equals C2. All right. Now, think about this. Think about this. What do you expect to see when we look at the output, right, or the result of this formula? What it's saying here is A2 plus B2 equals C2, right? Now A is 5 and A2 is 5, B2 is 10. Just a simple math. 5 plus 10 is 15. There is no way 15 is equal to C2, which is 20. All right. So when you think about that, you should be expecting to see false. All right. Let's hit enter. So if you enter your keyboard and it tells you false, right? So when we double click again to look at the formula, you have your equal symbol, you have the AND. The AND is one of your Boolean functions. And like we saw earlier, if I was to erase this, the description, the AND checks whether all arguments are true. It's only looking for one situation, if they're all true, and returns true if all arguments are true. Now, if something is false, then it's going to be false. So for it to be true, everything is going to be true, all right? So I just undo, Control Z to undo and go back to where we were. You hit enter, and that is definitely false, all right? So that's using the AND. Now let's try another, example here. Another example with the AND. So equals AND. Again, it's only going to be true if everything there is true. All right. So let's try an example here. So we're going to say C2 greater. That's the greater than symbol. Greater than A2. Well, we can just select that. A2 plus B2. All right. You close your parentheses. Now you look at that. Just basic math. Look at that expression there. C2 is 20. And what we're saying is C2 is greater than A2 plus B2. So A2 plus B2 is 15. What we're saying here in this example is 20 is greater than 15. Absolutely true, right? You hit enter, and that is true. So it's going to be true if the argument is true, if everything is true. If any part of it is false, it's going to be false, right? So Boolean functions, true or false situations. It's true or it's false when you deal with the AND. This AND example, that's what we're looking at right now. Well, I see another example here. So this is the AND. Here's another Boolean function that is the OR function. Let's get an example. So you type or, and when you look at the description here, or definition of the or, it checks whether any of the arguments are true and returns true or false. Returns false only if all arguments are false. So checks whether any of the arguments are true and returns true or false. It returns false only if all arguments are false. So what it's telling you is, what it's saying here is, if one of the arguments is true, it's going to be true. For it to be false, everything has to be false, like everything. So let me show you what I mean. I'll show you, give you an example here. So the or Boolean function here, again, we grab A2, so we grab 5. Now we're saying A2 is less than B2, right? Now that's our first, what you call your first argument, right? The next argument is C2 is greater than B2. All right, you close your parentheses. Now think about this. The first argument, A2 is less than B2. Well, A2 is 5 and B2 is 10. So that's true, right? That's true. The next argument, C2 is greater than B2. Well, that's true. So they're both true. This is going to evaluate to true. Let's hit enter. That's true. All right. Let's see another one. Again, remember when we do the or, it checks whether any of the arguments are true. So putting it plainly, all the arguments have to be false for you to evaluate to false. If one of it is true, it's going to be true. So let's mix it up here. So or right here, you double click and select the or. So let's say we're going to make a part of it true and a part of it false, and we'll see what happens. So the true part, we're going to say A. Again, A is less than A5. Sorry, A2 is less than B2, comma. We're going to say A2 is less than C2. That's true. Now we're going to say B2 is greater than C2. Now think about that. A2 is less than B2. That's true, because 5 is less than 10. C2 is less than, A2 is less than C2. That's true because 5 is less than 20. Now the third argument, B2 is greater than C2, that is 10 is greater than 20, that is false. Now think about it for a second. What's the output you're going to see? Is it going to say true or is it going to be false? If you remember the definition of or, let's hit enter. True. Now why is it true? Remember the definition, right? The definition of or, everything has to be false for your expression to be false. If 99 arguments are false and there's one true argument, it's going to be true. That's how the or operates. Now let's make it false now, right? So let's go here, and again we're going to use the or equals or, and let's say C2 is less than, we're going to say C2 is less than A2 plus B2. That's the first argument. Well, that's going to be false because 20 is not less than 15. That is A2 plus B2. So that's going to be false, right? Let's make another false one. We're going to say A2 is greater than C2. Well, that's false. We're going to say B2 is less than A2 times, where's my asterisk here? Okay, times 5. So think about this for a second. So your arguments are separated with commas, right? So you can have as many arguments as you want, separated with comma. You got to use a comma to separate. So right now we have 3 arguments. The first argument is C2 is less than A2 plus B2. A2 plus B2 is 15, and that's definitely false because 20 is not less than, right? Next argument, A2 is greater than C2. Well, that's not true. That's false because 5 is not greater than 20. Then the third argument, B2, that is 10. You're saying here 10 is less than A2 times 5. A2 is 5. 5 times 5 is 25. That's going to be false. If we hit enter, it gives us true. So let's take a look at that for 1 second. Why is it true? Now let's go back in here. What we're expecting to see is false. So let's see if something here that we did is true, because the OR says for it to be false, everything has to be false, right? So let's see. So here's the first part here. All right, so let's do this. Actually, let's do this. So let's take this out. We're going to take out this part, right? We'll just take it one at a time. Now that's false. All right, that's false. So that's false. Now let's add the other arguments for what we did, and then we'll come back to it in a second here. So here's the next argument, right? A2 is 5. We're saying A2 is greater than C2. Let's hit enter. That's false. So let's see the last part, what we did. Maybe we kind of mixed something there, the last part we did. Because we're trying to see a situation where it evaluates to false. All right, so let's see this part here. So B2 is 10. We're saying B2 is less than, actually, that might have occurred to you earlier. I didn't notice it. You might have noticed it, like, oh, come on, professor. That is true, because B2, which is 10, is definitely less than A2 5 times. So that's true, right? That's why we got it mixed up. So what we can do is change this symbol to greater than. So we're saying B2, which is 10, is greater than A2 times 5, which is B2 is greater than 25. That's false. So now we should see false all the way. All right. When you're working with Excel, you've got to take your time. Sometimes you think you have used a particular symbol and it's not. You got to slow down, especially when you're doing those quizzes, right? You got to slow down and make sure you're looking at the right character. Just like I did now, my characters were mixed up, and so I was expecting to get a different result. I thought it was all going to be false, but for some reason, typing error, it had symbol, or it was a less than instead of a greater than. So just to go about the OR again before we move on, in the OR, everything has to be false for it to be false, for the output to be false. If a single, just one item is true, it is going to be true, right? So let's do this one more time. Drag this down and use it again. So now I'm going to add just one true statement here. Remember, everything is false, just like what we have on B8. I'm going to add one true statement, which is basically C2 is greater than A2. And look at that. So with the OR, if one argument is true and 1,000 arguments are false, it is going to evaluate to true. All right. So that's the second. So we have the, let me just kind of, make this a little bit more obvious here. So the AND, I will look at the OR, and now we're going to look at one more Boolean function, which is the NOT, N-O-T, NOT. All right. So let's see how the NOT works here. Again, you type NOT here, and you can see changes false to true or true to false. That doesn't sound like it makes a lot of sense, if you ask me, but let's look at an example of what that might be here. I'll do that again. So let's see an example here of NOT. So again, N-O-T, and it says changes false to true or true to false. So we select this, and here's an example. A2 is greater than B2. Well, that's true. So the NOT is, it depends on what situation you need to use it for. But we see here the very basic explanation or definition. If I was to use it again, NOT, and say C2 is greater, or say it's less than B2 times 5. So basically, B2 times 5 is going to be 50. We're saying, well, that's false, right? So hit enter, and it's false. So looks like what the NOT is what it is not, if that makes any sense. If it's not true, then it's not true. If it's not true, then it's false. If it's not false, then it's true, right? That's what that is. So we looked at the AND, looked at the OR, and looked at the NOT. So if you're not 100% clear about anything we just said, well, pause this video, go back a few minutes to that spot, and make sure you're typing the examples and coming up with your own examples, right? Come up with your own examples to see if you're getting it, right? Come up with your own examples, use different numbers here, and come up with your own practice examples, all right? So that's Boolean functions. We're going to move on now to the next set of functions. I'm going to center, let me just type it here. So that's the if function, if function. So again, I'm going to spread it out just to make it look pretty. And you want to go to your alignment section here, and you want to do merge and center. Give me 1 second here. I always have to be sure that the lecture is recording. It will make no sense to give a lecture for, several, maybe an hour thereabouts, and you forgot to press a button, right? So you always got to be sure that you're on the right track. So I think it's recording and we can move on. All right, so let's go to the if function here. All right, so let's put a couple of numbers here, again, just random numbers. We're just going to put a 3 and a 10. The good thing about Excel is once you basically type a function, Excel does a good job of showing you the definition of that function. All right, definition of that function. So let's go ahead and do this here. Give me 1 second. All right. Just need to adjust my screen a little bit here so I can do this right. Okay. Let's see what we got here with the if function. So I'm going to go here and go ahead and type my equal symbol and if. Now let's see the definition here. Checks whether a condition is met. So it's looking for, it wants to see if you have met a certain condition, and returns one value if true and another value if false, right? So it looks at what you've typed or what you've done, and based on what you have there, it's going to say true or false. So if it is this situation, true. So it allows you to do like multiple things. The other examples we had were kind of like either or, right? True or false, yes or no, 0 or 1. But with this, you can basically have two responses, right? Either of two responses, all right? So let's see an example here. So right here, the if, we just double click to select that. And it's, if you look at the, should I say, the formula here, and the arguments that go there, there's a logical test, there's a value if true, value if false, right? So when you click on logical test, what do we want to test? We're going to say we want to test for let's say right here, A14, right? A14 less than B14, right? A14 less than B14. That's what we want to test for, right? So that's our logical value. Now, so you have two options. If that is true, what do you want to do? If it is false, what do you want to do? That's what it's saying. So we click on the value if true. If it is true, you say, we say A14, sorry, let me do that again. There's some errors here. Okay. So A14, you got to use parentheses because you're trying to write a sentence, right? So you use parentheses. A14 is less than B14. All right, that's what you want to say there. If it is true. If it is false, then you want to say A14 is more than, how about that? You can say greater than or more than B14. Then you close your quotation marks. I think I said parentheses earlier. Quotation marks. And now at the very end is where you have your parentheses. So hit enter. All right, now, so see what we have here. So again, going back to the logical test, that is what you want to test. You write a certain condition or a certain formula or something you want to evaluate, and you want to say, okay, what I wrote here, if it is true, then print out this statement. If it is false, print out this statement. I mean, it doesn't have to be A14 is less than B14. It can be got it, for example, or what are you talking about? It could be anything you want to say, right? I'll show you what I mean. Here, we're just kind of keeping it formal. If this expression is true, this logical test is true, all we're going to say is A14 is less than B14. If it is false, we're going to say A14 is more than. Again, we hit enter. All right. Let's keep it a bit more simple. Let's just do this and say, less, we're just going to say less, more. Now look at that. So what we're doing is A14. I'm just write that there so you kind of, you see what it is that we're evaluating for. B14. All right. That's what we're trying to check for, right? We want to see, A14 less than B14. Is it less or is it more? A14 less? Well, it's less. How about if we go back in here and we change the logical test to A14 is greater, right, than B14. More, right? So you can see your statement has to make sense, or else it might be a bit confusing. Because when you say more, like what does more mean? What does more mean, right? That's going to be confusing. So let's revert to what we had earlier, which will, help you kind of make more sense of it. So this is what we had before. And this is our expression here that we're trying to evaluate. Let me see. That's right. Let me come out of that. All right, so here's what we're trying to see here. We're trying to see A14 less than, is A14 less than B14? And our print out, so to speak, the print out is A14 is less than B14, of course, because A14 is 3 and B14 is 10. Right? Now, now notice that you have your value if true. So value if true means if that logical test is true, this is what you're going to print out, or this is what you're going to see in that cell. This is what the user of the computer or the customer, depending on where the application is, this is what they're going to see. They're going to see A14 is less than B14. If it is false, if that logical test is false, they're going to see the second statement. A14 is more than B14. So it may not be a true or false situation. It may just be based on the result. If it's going to be one of two, right? One of two. All right. So hopefully that didn't confuse you. So right now, is A14 is less than B14. If we change the expression and we change our symbol here, now A14 is greater than B14, let's see if that sentence changes. So now it says A14 is more than. So when you look up here in this formula bar, what we're seeing is the second option is what prints out because of how the if function works. All right. So you can, again, like I said, you can try different, practice data yourself to see that you get, this idea, really clear in your mind. Now let's try one more. So again, here we have two arguments, of course, based on what's going on there. So suppose we want to say right here, if, again, we go to if, you double click that. And now we're going to say B14, right? B14 is greater. Let's just put two numbers, right? We're just going to say it's greater than 12 minus 4. I mean, you might have data that needs to do that for some reason, right? And now you got to indicate if it is true, what you want to say. If it is false, what you want to say. So here we're just going to say correct, and then we'll say incorrect. That's what we're going to say then. So this could even be a quiz, right? This could be a quiz where you tell the participants or the students, whoever's taking the quiz, it's correct based on what you put in there, or it's incorrect. So again, it's one of two options that's going to display. So if that's true, if you think B14 is greater than, actually, we should I think we've got to move our values around a little bit, because right here, B14 greater than 12 minus 4, 12 minus 4 is 8. Okay, we're on the right track. B14 is 10, so 10 is greater than 8. We're going to say correct. And if you think, incorrect, if it is incorrect, right? You guys get it. So that's correct. All right, it's going to say correct. So again, like I said, what you print out, right, the response, so to speak, can be whatever you want. Depends on the situation. It can be yes, no. It can be approved, not approved. It can be correct, incorrect. It can be I don't know, thumbs up, thumbs down. You get the idea, right? And it's going to be incorrect if we say, for example, if we use just a less than, right? Then that's going to be incorrect. So again, your if statement looks at a logical test. If that logical test is true, you print out a sentence or a word or a phrase. If it is false, you print out the second word, phrase, or expression. All right? Okay. So that's the if function. Let's move on to the next function we want to look at here. And the next function I want to look at is conditional function. Conditional function. I'll fix that. Or conditional functions. Again, I'm going to center that title here. Merge and center, and give it a basic background color there, just to brighten things up. All right, let's look at conditional functions. Let's do this. Give me 1 second here. Need to get all my notes together. Okay. All right. So to get started with conditional functions, let's type some data. All right. All right, here we go. We're going to have a name here. We're going to have amount owed. We're going to have date. We're going to have city. So think about it as, I don't know, you might have a list of customers, right? And you want to have a, you have the data of, well, here are my customers, and here's, maybe you sell, I don't know, you sell hats, you sell shoes, you do some kind of business, right? Or whatever it is. Just a basic example. All right. So here's a few names: Sally, Luke, say James, Jake, Simon, Lee, Zara, and we have somebody called Fareed. Okay. So we got Sally, Luke, James, and so on, Zara, Fareed. And we're going to say these people owe you some money, right? For some reason, right? They owe you some money. So $45 here, $30 here. James owes $31, $32 for Jake. Simon, say $33, $30 for Lee, $30 for Zara, and say $36 for Fareed. All right. Say the date of the transaction, right? If there was a date of transaction, let's say the date of transaction was a while back, and you're trying to keep track of the info. So now remember what we said about when Excel, should I say, recognizes data that has a pattern. I'm just going to grab this down. Excel just going to give us consecutive days. So it doesn't really matter the date. It's just examples here. So we're going to say Sally's from Hall. Cambridge, next person, Cambridge. Hall again. Then we have Boston. We have Cambridge again. We have Hall, and we have Cambridge again. All right, that's fine. So this is a data table you might have, right? It could be anything, but in this case, you have a list of names, and now we can format this. Remember, we can format this here. So you want to format this into currency, right? So you highlight this and go to number in the number section here, and go to currency, and you select the dollar symbol and click OK. So we see that that's monetary value. All right. So what we want to do here is, we want Excel to help us here a little bit. Actually, a lot. What we want to see is, we want to say, okay, in this list that I have, this data that I have, right? How many of these folks live in Hall or are from Hall? How many are from Cambridge? How many from Boston, right? Now, of course, because they're just, There's just 8 records. It's easy to tell. But this could easily be 80 records or 800 or 8,000 or 8 million records, right? If you work for the RMV, Registry of Motor Vehicles, you could have a lot of data. You could work in a bank, you could work at a law firm, you know, at a sports club, a lot of data, right? But right now, just a little bit. So we're trying to determine here, all the guys on our list, how many of these guys are from Hall, from different parts of the, you know, the state, or how many of these guys owe us exactly $30, right? Basically trying to get some kind of, to categorize, all right, to categorize your list. When you use tools like Excel, you don't want to grab your calculator and start to punch in things manually. It's like, what's the point? You want Excel to use its, should I say, its powers to get the job done. It's usually faster for you and more accurate. All right. So the first, should I say, the first condition function I want to look at is the COUNTIF. COUNTIF. All right. So let's see how the COUNTIF works. Here's what we want to do. We want to find out how many times 30 appears on our list, right? 30, how many times? How many? 30. Say $30, all right? So if I look at your list here, again, like I said, it's a very short list, so you can tell by yourself. You can tell very easily that there's, you know, there's 1, there's 2, there's 3, but then this could be a very big list. So let's see what the formula is. The formula is going to work no matter the size of the data, okay? So let's see how that works here. Using the COUNTIF. All right, so I'm going to put I'm going to go here, and I'm going to say, this example. So again, COUNTIF, you type your COUNTIF here, COUNTIF. COUNTIF. And if you look at the definition, counts the number of cells within a range. Counts the number of cells within a range that meet the given condition. Counts the number of cells within a range that meets the condition. So basically, we want to look at maybe the B column, all right? But there's, you know, there's some arguments we have to put in there, right? We know that the B column has the info we're looking for, but how exactly does Excel pick out, you know, the 30s? Well, let's see. So you double click there. Now Excel wants 2 things from you, right? It wants the range and it wants criteria. Range, criteria. So in terms of range, what is the range of the data you have, right? So we got to go here and we say, here's our range right here, right? Our range is, excuse me, here. All right, scroll this down a little bit. All right, and drag this down. So the range is what we just highlighted, right? B21 to B28. That's the range of where that data can be found. All right, so, you know, comma there, and criteria. What's the criteria? Remember, we want to see how many times 30 appears, right? 30 appears. So let's see if we can just select 30. I'm not sure we can just do that, right? That's not going to be accurate. We don't want a formula, right? Or we don't want a cell reference. We want to say the exact number. So you're just going to type 30 here, right? I think that should be it. We want Excel to find the 30s. And that's all you do, right? Now let's hit enter and see what Excel tells us here. There are 3 in this range, and we knew that before because we counted it kind of manually. Luke here owes $30, Lee owes $30, Zara owes $30. That's 3, right? So using the COUNTIF, again, the COUNTIF is going to look at a range and look at if the condition is, how many times the condition is met in that range. Again, if we go back here, if I take this out, just to look at the definition again, counts the number of cells within a range that meet the given condition. All right, counts number of cells. All right, so we'll undo that, and that's what we have. So Excel has, using the COUNTIF function, has looked at that range B21 all the way to B28 and found the number of times 30 occurs, right? Now, let us just say that Sally also owes $30. Let's see if this 3 here changes. Look at that. So Excel is, it's accurate, right? Excel is doing a good job. And of course, if we said everybody owes $30, well, there are 8 records here, this should say 8. So let's just, go crazy and do that. Look at that. Everybody owes $30, so Excel tells us, well, you got 8 people doing that. So if we undo that, then we see we're back to 4. Okay, back to 4. So that is your COUNTIF. And it works in various situations, right? You want to basically extract a certain value or a certain unique value from a long list. Well, you use the COUNTIF, and Excel is going to basically extract those values for you. All right? Okay, let's move on. Now, how about if we want to say sum of only all customers, right? Right here, using COUNTIF, Excel tells us how many of the customers owe $30. Now we want to say, okay, just want to sum the whole. So there are different ways you can categorize your data, okay? We just want to sum up the whole customers, right? The guys who are from the city of Hull. So we know there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, we can count manually because it's very small data, all right? But in the real world, you're going to have lots and lots of data, hundreds of thousands or millions, right? You might, if you want to apply that same formula. So let's see how this works. So what you want to do here is, again, well, in this situation, we're going to use what we call the SUMIF function to do that job, all right? Obviously, we're trying to sum, so we're going to use the SUMIF. So equals sum, and let's see how that is defined here. Adds all the numbers in a range of cells. Adds all the numbers in a range of cells, all right? So let's see how that works here. Let me just move this up a little bit here. Go do this again. Equals sum if. All right, so we need a range, we need a criteria, and we need a sum range. So let's see how that works. So the range, first of all, the range is obviously, let me make this a little bit bigger, create some more space here. All right, so here's the range. The range of what we're looking for, right, is D21 all the way to D24. So that's your range, the first argument here. All right. So you type your range, and now your criteria. Okay. Your criteria. Now we forgot something, right? So we're going to do this. So it's going to be an error, but I'm going to come back to it. So kind of like to the side, right? To the side here, I'm just going to type hog, because that's what I'm looking for, just to the side here, right? You know, away from your main data, I'm going to type hog there. So now I'm going to go back to my formula and keep going. So I have my range. Now the criteria is the word hall, right? So I can just click here. Okay. You don't really want to select any of the halls in your main table. It's going to cause a conflict. Okay. Or in the D column. You want to put it to the side. So that's E23, the word. So the criteria is the word hall. We're trying to see, select the hall customers. Okay. And then the next thing, the next thing there is the sum range, right? The sum range. Now, this is the sum range here. This is, the monies that are owed. Remember, we're trying to see, we're trying to sum the monies owed specifically from the customers who are from the CDO hall, okay? And that's all we need there. We need the range. We got the range. We got the criteria. Oh, I think I deleted something by mistake. Let's do that again. So criteria is E23, and I forgot to put the comma there, and the sum range is right here. And that's all you need. The range, the criteria, the sum range. If you hit enter, it says 122. Well, we can format that into dollars, into currency. So we do that. So that should be $122. Now let's verify that manually. Every time you grab a set of numbers, at the bottom of the screen, Excel does the math for you, right? So right now we selected 30 and 30, Excel tells you 60, right? So we want to select all the hall customers just manually. So I'm going to grab the first one, hold down your control key on your keyboard. So Sally's hall, Luke is hall, hold down the control key and click. I'm going to keep my control key clicked here. We can see that Jake is also from hall. And just look at the bottom here. And let's see, Dara is also from hall. So if you can see at the bottom here, that's the sum of the selected cells, 122, right? So using the sum if, Excel has, done a perfect job, right? Once you have all your formula info or your arguments laid out correctly, the rest is easy. It's just knowing what goes where. That's always the challenge with Excel. What exactly goes into the range? What exactly goes into the criteria? And what exactly goes into the sum range? Well, here's the example that you can build on these examples even when you have much larger data. It works in the same way. So you got your range, you got your criteria, and you got the sum range. And always you got to separate each of those criteria, each of those arguments with commas, right? So specifically, hall customers owe 122 collectively. How about if we want to see the Cambridge guys, right? So we want to see, want to see how much specifically the customers from Cambridge owe. Well, similar idea. Just a very similar idea here. So this is Cambridge. All right, so basically you can just drag this down, and Excel has, let's see if Excel is right. because, you know, we have Cambridge right below Hall. So when things are consecutive, Excel kind of picks up on it in a very smart way, but let's verify that, all right? So when we double click, let's see what Excel selected here. So the most important thing here is the criteria. Excel correctly highlighted the criteria, which is Cambridge. The only problem is somehow Excel excluded the first row. So we need to make an adjustment here. Well, basically, you just drag this up. Just click here, click on the angle here, drag this up, and drag this up. Obviously, there's no Cambridge there, but if there was, then that'll be an error for us, right? So we've got to be sure that that's correct. All right, so let's see if we did it manually. So James is Cambridge here. You hold down your control key, and Lee is Cambridge. So also Fareed. At the bottom here, it says $97 by the Cambridge folks, and so that's correct. All right. And of course, you can do the same thing for Boston. Now, if I change Boston to Hall, we expect this 122 to increase by $33, right? So let's just do that and see if Excel is on the same page as we are. I think it is. Look at that. So it changed to 155. All right. So we basically took out Cambridge. It's just Hall and sorry, we took out Boston. So it's just Hall and Cambridge right now. So it doesn't matter how complicated or how diverse, right, or how many categories you have in your data. You follow this. You follow the COUNTIF or the SUMIF. You're going to get the results that we're discussing here. Doesn't matter how much data you have on your sheet. All right. We've got two more things to look at here, and then we can wrap this up. Another of these functions we're going to look at here is, now this is called the VLOOKUP. 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 So let's enter the VLOOKUP right here. Merge at center. Give it a, nope, I don't need that. Just give it a background color. All right. So let's see how the VLOOKUP works. Again, using an example will, really make a lot of sense. So we're going to come up with some categories here. We're going to look at students' grade. Let's say, you're an instructor or you're working for an instructor. Let's say you're an intern or you're a TA for an instructor, and an instructor is like, could you, come up with a Excel sheet to help me with my grading? Well, here is something that could be quite useful to you. Function to set letter grade. Let's just do that. Keep it simple. The function set letter grade, and we'll say, one more thing here. In 1 second. All right. So that's all we need. So we're going to have, so we're going to have 10 students. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's say we have 10 students. All right. We could put their name, but we can just use numbers for now. And say these students have, obviously in the class, you're going to have students, with various, grades. So we have a student with the grade here. We have 72. We have somebody with 61, somebody who didn't really show up, had 28, then somebody who totally aced it. We have some more here. Then we have a 72. We have a 81. All right, just keep it that simple. All right, so what we're trying to do is, so let's create a table here, right? We're going to create a table here. I'm going to call it, we say, this is kind of like, you want to put this table aside. So this is your official grading scheme, right? Your official grading scheme. So here is the score, and then here is the letter grade that your professor wants you to use for the calculations. All right. All right. So your professor is saying, all right, here's the score, or this might even be in high school, or maybe middle school, or it can be, college, wherever, but just going to keep it simple. So your professor is saying to you, well, if the student's score is, say, 59, that's an F. If the student's score is less than 69, that is a D. 79, that's a C. 89, that's a B. And let's say 99, that's an A. Now, of course, if it's college, there's more categories of grades. Of course, we know that. We're just going to keep it simple, all right? So you're trying to build a formula to help your teacher out here, right? And so the teacher is like, well, I want you to use this table here, right? You can put a border around it. What the border is here. Okay, you can put a border around. All right. So I want you to use this table, and every time you get, I give you the grades, I want you to set the correct grade in here automatically. So come up with something in your Excel sheet. Your professor tells you, well, you did Excel, right? So help me out here. So how does that work? How do we use the VLOOKUP function to somehow set a formula here that automatically assigns the correct letter grade into this section here, right? We want to assign the correct letter grade into this section here. So let's see how Excel will do this using the VLOOKUP. So again, you type your VLOOKUP here. And when you look at, well, it's quite a long description, but it looks for a value in the leftmost column of a table and then returns a value in the same row from a column you specify. By default, the table must be sorted in an ascending order. Ascending order, that is, in this case, ascending order is going to be from the least to the highest. So F all the way to A. Ascending order from bottom. You get it. Sometimes that's hard to even describe, but ascending, A is at the bottom, F is at the very top. Okay. So VLOOKUP has several functions, several arguments that it's looking for, right? Several arguments. So let's see. So the lookup value here, what's the lookup value? What value are we looking for? We're looking for the value 90. What look for the value 90 and say, well, 90 is going to be a what? Is that an F, a D, a C, a B, or an A, right? So your lookup value is the grade, the student's score, should I say, right? I should say, well, I should probably say score here, but yeah, that's fine. Well, let's do that. Let me do that again. So I'm just going to say student. Well, let's just say score. Just keep it simple and move on. All right. So again, VLOOKUP. All right. So, yep. So the lookup value is 90 for that first student, number one. Then the next argument is the table array. The table array. That is, where's the table that has the information you're looking for? Well, it's right here. So all you need to grab is, you can ignore the table headers, the score and letter grade. You just want to select the actual data. So you can see here the actual data. The actual data is, what's that? E37 to F41. All right, that's the actual data. Okay, that's a table array. So you have a comma there, and then the next piece of information we need is the column index number. Column index. That is, now we have two columns here, right? We have two columns. And what Excel is looking for is, which of these columns is it? The first column, called the E column, or the F column? Actually, Excel looks at it as column 1 and column 2. So Excel is asking you which of these columns has the values you want to place in this cell. Is it column 1 or column 2? Well, we can tell that it's column 2 because the values you want to place in this cell, C37, is F, D, C, B, or A. All right, so that's column 2. So your column index is 2. All right, and now the last argument is basically the range lookup. So you can see that when you get to that part, there are two options. There's true and there's false. Now, you might guess what these two options do. The first option for true is if you want it to be approximate, right? Like, well, 90 is not exactly on that, it's not exactly in the table. Give me something close. Or you might say false, it's got to be that exact number. So I don't want any approximations here. It's got to be exact, right? So let's go with true first. Just select that, and you want to close your table, close your formula there, hit enter, and now we see that 90 is a B. Now think to yourself, why is 90 a B? Why is 90 a B? Why is 90 a B? Because we selected the option to approximate, right? Like approximate value. Now 90 is much closer to 89 than it is to 99. Even though we know that in some settings, like in college, for example, 90 is probably going to be an A, not probably, 90 is an A minus. But right here, it gives us a B because we selected the approximate option. So Excel is looking for, well, 90 is closer to which of these numbers? It's closer to 89, so it says it's going to be a B. Well, let's apply it down. Fix, right? We have to fix the formula, right? Make it kind of permanent so that when we drag it down, it works. So basically what you do is you got to go in here, right, and place a dollar symbol. You place a dollar symbol before each of those values, just like that. A dollar symbol, right? All right, so you place a dollar symbol. Now let's drag it. So a dollar symbol right before each of those cell references, right? So E37, you place dollar symbols exactly how you have it here. I'll show you the result in a second. Okay, let's see the result of that. Now I'm going to drag it down, and now you can see, right? First of all, we have to make the formula a little bit more, like say, permanent by adding the dollar symbol. So when you drag it down, it doesn't shift the position of the data in our table. All right. So now you can tell. So now we've gone with the false approach, which is exact match. So right here, 99 is an exact match, 89 is an exact match, 89, 79, 69, the others are not available because of the option we selected, right? If we go back here and we change this to true, let's see what happens. Okay, let's drag it down all the way down here. And now it gives us an approximate, right? Approximate. So approximately 100 is an A because it's kind of close. 99 is an A, it's close. 94 is, well, Excel believes that 94 is closer to a B. 81 is closer to a C. 79 is closer to a, yeah. So Excel is trying to do its best judgment to tell you what's close to what, right? 79 is a C, of course. 72 is closer to a D, and 69 is a D. 28 is not available because it's kind of too far away. 28 is too far away from anything, all right? So for you to be more accurate, right, it will make sense to expand your, should I say expand your table, right? Expand your table. So you can decide, for example, to have multiple numbers for each letter grade category. For example, let me drag this down here and apply that. So you can say, all right, maybe 100 is an A, then I'm going to say 96 is an A, 94 is an A, all right? Copy that, just put that here, and then I'll say 92, sorry, 92. 92 is a minus. 90 is an A minus, right? And then you can, go further down and say for B or B plus. So it depends on how many categories you want to have and how close you have to be for your grading. Obviously, you want every student to get the correct grade, all right? And, it might be quite frustrating to build a very long table, but even if your table has 100 lines, once you build it the first time, that's it. You never have to do it again. Your professor can use it, other professors can use it, other teachers can use it. You only have to, the bulk of the work is the first time. Once you build it the first time and you have, a lot of categories to capture as many scores as possible, then you're all set. It's just the first time. So if I want to do B, I can say maybe a B plus here, B plus, 89, maybe a 87 is also a B plus, B plus. Then I say 85 is a B, the B. Then I say 83 is a B minus. And then you can expand it. So you get, so you get the idea I'm trying to share with you here is you can expand this. The more options you have, the more accurate you can be, right? So right now the table, the data has adjusted because 100 here is an A, 99 is an A, 94 is a A, 89 is a B. Let's see. Yeah, we haven't taken care of the other categories. So let's say, for example, here, this 89 had a 90. If this was a 90, and we drag this down, the 90 will be a, what did we put in here? Okay, well, because we're still using the approximate, right? True. We're using the approximate, right? So if we use the false, which is exact match, let's see what happens. I think I did something wrong there, did I? Okay, well, if you notice what we did, right, we need to expand the table, right? Yeah, that's what Excel is complaining about here. So expand the table. All right. So expand the table, you drag it down, and we have the results we're looking for, right? That is exact match. So a bit more practice with this, and you should be very clear. If we did true, so true or false, depending on how accurate you want to be. Of course, you want to be accurate, because with students' grades, you don't want to be close. You want to be exact match, right? So you need to expand your table, and let's see. All right, so for the first 4, based on the table we have here, I think we're accurate, right? So it's very close, right? 90 here gives you a B plus. So you might want to expand it, right? Again, if you went for false, so you can see the different results you get there when you drag it down. All right, when you exact match. All right. So that's the idea with VLOOKUP, is you can basically set a value, right? Or in this case, you can set a letter grade. You're going to look at, if we just look at the formula again, you're going to look at the lookup value, the table array, the index. So index 1 or 2, where is the value you want to set in that cell? Your index column, and then your range lookup. The range lookup is important, right? But it works perfectly if you expand your grading table, right? You might have to do 1, or maybe that's just not 1, maybe 50, 59, depending on the grading, and then 60. Maybe do a big table 1 to 100, right? And then categorize all the letter grades. You do it once, you don't have to do it again. All right. So that's your VLOOKUP. And now to wrap this up, let's look at the last function, which is the HLOOKUP. HLOOKUP. So the V here, the V is like a vertical, right? Vertical lookup. The H is going to be horizontal. So let's see, HLOOKUP. So let's set that merge and center. Put a background color right there. All right. So with the HLOOKUP, it's pretty close when we compare, pretty close to what the HLOOKUP looks like. Let me say. So let's come up with an example here. So I'm going to just put again, examples are easier for you to grab the whole concept. So let's do this. Food, I'm going to say food code. I'm going to say 1011, 1022, 1033. All right. And then I'm going to say food. All right. I'm going to say pizza here, burger, and just give it simple fries. So basically what we have here is, let's say, there's a competition of some sort and you're giving out, tickets or coupons. Depending on who wins, right? Or maybe the first prize, the second prize, the third prize. So we give you coupon here or a ticket, if your ticket is 1011, well, you get a pizza. If your ticket is 1022, you get a burger. And if your ticket is 1033, you get fries. All right. So we're going to copy, just to make this kind of faster, save us some time. I'm going to copy these guys here. Just copy that and paste them right down here. Okay. So these same guys here are going to be in this competition, and we're just going to assign the numbers randomly. That's just general number this time. So let's format it back to general number, not currency. All right. So 1011, 1022, 1022, 1033, 1011, 1022, 1033, 1011. All right. So each of these students, right, have, their tickets has these numbers. So maybe you work for, the club or the organization, for the school, for, whatever the situation is, and it's your job to, come up with, a nice Excel spreadsheet so we can tell, based on your ticket, here's the food that you get. And then you use your Excel skills. So here's how you can do that using the HLOOKUP. We've already seen here with the VLOOKUP how we can do this for grades. And this is the vertical option. Now with the HLOOKUP, you can see that everything is more horizontal, all right? More horizontal. So how do we do that? All right, so here's what you do here. So again, you type HLOOKUP here, HLOOKUP, and we can see the definition there. Basically, like the VLOOKUP, the difference is we're looking at a row this time instead of a column, right? We're looking at a row instead of a column. Or we're looking at things horizontally instead of vertically, okay? All right, so let's select that lookup value, right? The lookup value is the 1011. So Sally's ticket, what is Sally's ticket is what we'll look at here. Each of the students' tickets, so Sally. Then the table array, basically, where is that information, all right? And here's our info here, right here. Okay, B49 all the way to D50. B49 to D50. All right, that's our table array. The row index. So the row index is going to be 2, right? The food code row, this row here, the food code row is 1. The food row is 2. So our row index number is 2. And then finally, again, you want to look at approximate match or exact. I guess in this case, it's pretty straightforward, exact match, right? If it's 1011, it's pizza. If it's 1022, it's burger. If it's 1033, it's fries. So exact match. All right, you close up your parentheses, you hit enter, and you can see that Sally gets pizza if we drag this. Now, again, we have to make our formula permanent. So actually, depending on your keyboard, or your computer, if you highlight all this, basically this table array, and you hit the, I believe it's the, let me be sure I got that. All right, that's F4. So if you have the function key on your keyboard, right, the function key on your keyboard, what I just did was I pressed the function key. So I highlighted the table array, right, cells. I held the function key on my keyboard down and I pressed F4. And it just automatically places the dollar symbols there, right? So on your laptop, you might have that function, or you might just be able to hit F4. Just highlight the table array, and hit F4, and it's going to place the dollar symbols in there. All right, so, or if you don't have any of those fancy functions on your keyboard, just type it in there. All right, so that's fine. So when we drag it down, we shouldn't have any problems. So let's see, drag it down here. There you go. We have, you know, Sally gets pizza, Simon gets pizza, and Farid gets pizza. Luke and James and Lee get burgers, and 2 people, Jake and Zara, get fries. And you can see that it's accurate here, right? So that's the HLOOKUP function. Again, you can try different practice examples by yourself, mix up the data, mix up the information, and come up with results that help you know that, you know, you're learning and developing in this area of Boolean functions, if functions, conditional functions, VLOOKUP, and HLOOKUP. All right. Okay, that's the end of our lecture for this module. I'll talk to you guys soon.